So we're gonna talk business now. So your area of expertise is adult care, wellbeing, and health integration, and that is a huge area. Covers a lot of different things.
Huge area of the council. Yeah.
What would you say is your sort of main focus at the moment that you're working on?
Okay, well, there's always lots of real challenges across the council, but my big area is adult social care, and we've got a budget of about 130 million, and it's a big sort of pressure demand led service. So one of the main things that we try and focus on is staying within budget, and that's really difficult to do because we have a lot of statutory services that by law, if somebody presents to us, we have to try and help them out and deal with them. So that's one of the big things. There's lots going on in my area, and I'm really lucky, I think, to have such a big, wide, varied portfolio. There's something we're working around the wider integration with our health partners. There's something called the Northamptonshire Integrated Care Partnership, and I've been involved with that for a while. And one of the things that really excites me as a local councillor, because first and foremost I'm a locally elected councillor, I'm a member of Duston Parish Council, is the work that's going on at a real low community level, because I think that's where, as a politician, I guess my politics begins and ends within our communities, and I think that's really important for us to stay grounded and remember. And we're doing this work. We've set up these things called local area partnerships. There's 9 across the whole of West Northamptonshire, 5 in Northampton, and it's about a partnership of local people that have got a vested interest in the sort of health outcomes and the progress of our local populations, and that includes the police, local council services, local elected members like me, the voluntary sector, and we're looking at data around some of the areas, all of our areas, to see what the pressures are, what we can do about health. Things like exclusions from school, for example, in Northampton. There's one area that we know there was 12 and a half years of education lost just by kids being excluded in one particular area of Northampton. Then if you look at things like crime and the impact on families, and again coming back to the statutory services that we have to provide from adults and children's services, we're getting right down into the nub of what's going on within our communities, what's driving the different health outcomes, what's driving crime and things, and we're trying to do something about it, basically. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about.
And these partnerships are uncovering some interesting statistics, aren't they? That one of them that I heard was that there's a higher than average incidence of heart disease in our area.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, so from the public health point of view, what can we do about that? How can we engage with people that are presenting at A&E with it's COPD, it's technically known as, and what can we do to try and help these people identify them, whether there's an ethnicity about a disproportionate ethnicity for some of these people, which I think there is if you look at the data. How do we get into those communities and work with these people and try and help to get them moving and get them active, to help prevent them presenting at A&E or with a serious issue like a stroke or a heart attack.
So for an average person that's listening to this now that uses the different services here in West Northamptonshire, what are they going to notice as being different since these organisations have come on board and are working together? That's a very good question.
So I think we're still in the beginning of it. These partnerships were only started in November, December last year. We set up 2 pilots, one in the centre of Northampton, one out in Towcester, because we've got this big rural sort of hinterland around our almost city of Northampton. So we're trying to get them running, and I think on a scale of 1 to 10, we're probably at about 2.5 at the moment in terms of getting to where we want to get to. So what I hope people will notice is that there's a bit more of a coordinated, integrated approach when if people ring up the doctors, they might get referred to a local voluntary group to help them get more active, or there's a lot of that goes on in some areas at the moment, but we're just trying to be a bit more joined up about how we work and how we promote what's there within our communities, because there's an awful lot there. There's a huge amount going on in our communities. If you go back to COVID, our communities in West Northamptonshire, across all of Northamptonshire, responded really well. People stepping up to say, I want to help. I want to help, whether it's distributing food parcels to the elderly or getting involved in voluntary groups. There was a huge amount of brilliant response from people out there in our areas, whether it's Duston, Kings Heath, the eastern side of Northampton, and we're trying to build on that with these, like I say, with these local area partnerships and the voluntary sector and all these different groups that are there within our communities are playing a huge important role in that. So one of the things we're trying to do is just basically connect it all up a bit more and help it feed into the sort of bigger, higher level strategic sort of health system, if you like.
But it is a big area, and there's lots of very different communities within that area. So obviously there's not going to be a one-size-fits-all kind of solution to healthcare. But it's important to look at.
And we're trying to let these area partnerships decide on what their priorities are. So that one you mentioned about heart disease and the exclusion rates was the first one we set up in Northampton. So that's two of the priorities. The other one is crime. So we're trying to make those priorities will be different there than they will be in Toaster, for example, where people talk about there's a lot of rurality there and there's social isolation and the issues of getting in to visit essential services. So all the different communities have different needs, and we're trying to look at it not in one big one size fits all. So we're trying to be very bespoke in terms of what we're trying to get going within the different communities to respond to their needs.
It's good having a shoe analogy for Northampton. I think it's very appropriate.
That's right. Hi, Chris.
So one of the things that I find really interesting is the way that if you had like a pie chart of the council's budget, how that is divided and how different services are prioritised. And what I think is very interesting is that within the total council budget, your department is the one that uses the most of the budget, £400 million, I think, in the last budget, and it's a big chunk. So if people are wondering, what does that money get used for? Why do you need such a proportionately large amount of the total pie? How does that all get kind of divided up and used?
Yeah, so our budget is about £130 million, and it does chop and change a little bit, and there are different grants and things that come in from government, but mainly it goes into supporting people. We have a lot of when people maybe need discharging from hospital, there are services that they access and are able to use, and then if people get put back in at home, there's a certain level of support that some people may need, or some people may be placed in a home or other provision, or even if there's adults with special educational needs, they may need a certain level of support. So most of that budget is around basically supporting people in their different placements, whether it's at home or in with one of our own providers or an external provider. So it soon gets eaten up, and we support about 400 people, and also have contact with about 14,000 people around West Northamptonshire, whether it's just through a small level of care support or providing them equipment or something at home. So if you you can soon use up that budget.
So 400 people being supported and it costing £400 million, and that's obviously quite a lot of
4,000 people. I meant, sorry,
4,000. Okay, but it's still quite a lot of money per person that everybody else is paying for. Is there a way of reducing some of those costs so that the money can be spent elsewhere, or is it already kind of pruned down quite a lot?
We're always looking to try and optimise our services. Last week, for example, I went to visit one of our reablement services, which is based up at the other side of Kingsthorpe, and they're all about reabling people when they come out of hospital and supporting them to get the best outcomes. So we're always looking to try and get the most bang for our buck, because we're very, very conscious that it's a huge amount of money, and people expect us to do other things with it, like filling potholes, for example.
Well, potholes are very important.
Exactly. And that's what people rightfully challenge us on. And but our two big statutory areas are adult social care and children's services, that between them take up pretty much 2/3 of the council budget. So it's really, really difficult to try and make that balance. And when we have those statutory obligations, and if there's a lot of pressure, like there always is in these areas, we have to make some tough decisions about what we can or can't do, and repairing the roads and some of the things that aren't as statutorily higher up the list sometimes suffer as a result of that.
But this isn't unique to our area. This is something that every council has to do.
And I think the way social care is funded is another big question, and that's above my pay grade, if you like. But it's clear to see that really it needs a fundamental reform. Governments have sort of skirted around the edges about trying to find a fair and equitable solution to it. And if I was talking to our MPs now, I would say that we really need to change or re-look at how we fund social care, because it feels like it's sometimes unfair. You know, if you have below a certain level of assets, you get it all paid for, or you get most of it paid for, and if you have a certain level over £23,500 basically, you have to fund most of it yourself, and it doesn't feel quite right. And then you put the pressures on local authorities. It's very difficult, very challenging.
So maybe a sliding scale might be better than just a sudden cut off.
And there's talk about, should it be a part of the NHS, and you know, should we take it away from local authorities? I would argue no, that's not the best solution, because it just gets subsumed into that huge NHS pot, and they've got lots of challenges in their own right, whereas we can work with our communities and get underneath them, a bit like we was talking about a minute ago, and try and do something to help people before they need sort of more acute services.
Okay, well, we're going to chat some more. We've got another 20 minutes or so with Matt here in the studio. So if you have any questions to ask, you can post them on our Facebook page, or you can contact us here in the studio by text or WhatsApp on 07852 961 961. Thanks very much for joining me today, to the Cabinet Member for Adult Care, Wellbeing and Health Integration on West Northamptonshire Council. It is Cllr Matt Golby, who is my guest in the studio. And we've been talking about lots of different things, and one of the areas that's very much in the news at the moment is the council's anti-poverty strategy, because there's a cabinet meeting coming up tonight to review the progress and impact that it's made following its sort of year of implementation. It was launched in April last year as a 3-year strategy, and a lot of good stuff has come out of it, including the Warm Spaces project last winter. And also 6,000 vouchers distributed via community organisations to vulnerable residents, and also £240,000 allocated to food banks. So it sounds like a lot of good work has been done. Are you confident that it's going to be given the thumbs up by the rest of the council later?
I'm sure it will be, because sitting behind the strategy, there's a cross-party oversight board, we call it, and that's got members of different voluntary and community groups as well. And we sort of come together to give it a bit of direction and talk through some of the challenges. And we've had some really positive comments around from external partners, not the council saying, "Well, this is good work." External partners saying this is a really good piece of work. And from my point of view, I'm very proud of this as the cabinet member responsible for it, because we've helped an awful lot of people. You mentioned the warm welcoming spaces, and I know between January and March this year we had 52,000 visits to those different spaces across West Northamptonshire. That's a huge amount of people coming through the door, and that's 52,000 opportunities to try and help somebody or direct them to some sort of support. Again, going back to the sort of preventative sort of agenda I was talking about with our local area partnerships, how we can help people before they need sort of acute help at hospitals or whatever. So it's a huge piece of work, and it's a really good coming together of lots of interested parties, and that's the report that I'm presenting this evening at Cabinet. So it's got 3 objectives basically. One was helping people that are experiencing poverty now. 2 is trying to prevent people falling into poverty, and then 3 around how we can help government understand what's going on in our communities a bit more, and how we can lobby them to get a better service for the people that we represent and that we're trying to help out. So we've done the first bit right, which is captured in the report, is helping people that are in poverty now. The challenge over the next year or so is looking a bit more strategically on how we can make our local system, working with our partners, a bit more sustainable. So we're not just handing out vouchers for money all the time, or food parcels at the food bank. We're trying to help people. There's things like the food larders that we help to support, where people can sign up to, and even for like £5 you can get £25 worth of food and things. So we're trying to look a bit more sort of medium long term to how we can influence the system to be a bit more strategic and sustainable. But it's great work.
Have you been able to measure the outcomes directly from this? Has there been a difference in the kind of people admitted for healthcare from some of the conditions that would arise from being too cold in the winter?
That's one of the challenges is how we measure it all. Like I say, we knew we had 52,000 visitors for the warm welcoming spaces. That obviously it's not cold outside now, but we're keeping them going because we understand and recognise the need. We've asked some people to fill in forms there, so there's been a high level of people saying they've actually got mental health issues that need addressing as well. So we've been able to look and signpost people there. So where we can, we do try and measure outcomes, like the food vouchers we give for school children in the holidays. We know how many of those actually get spent, and actually a proportion don't always get spent. So we need to always continually evaluate what we've been doing and look at better ways of helping people to make money and provisions go further, really. If
they don't get spent, does that money go back in the pot so it can be used for other people?
No, we've been getting different pots of money from government with something called the Household Support Fund, and I think we're on Household Support Fund 4 now. So we've had 3 different pots so far that government are reasonably prescriptive, but leave us a bit of wriggle room as to how we can spend it. They might say a certain percentage needs to be spent on people over 60, certain amount needs to be spent on families and on children at school or whatever. So we're always evaluating it and looking to do it better, really.
Okay, so if you're in need of advice or support in terms of poverty, there's a very good page on the council website with cost of living support, which has a whole range of links through to different places where you can get support or you can get help, and that is on the West Northamptonshire Council website. So that's worth checking out. And I think, you can see that a lot of work has gone into putting this information together and
a lot
providing
of it
that
is,
support.
we were talking about earlier, just joining things up, helping people to see what's there in the communities already. Like I said, going back off the back of COVID, there was a huge amount of support from people coming forward to say, well, I want to help my community. And so this sort of builds off of the back of that. So we've done, in West Northamptonshire, we've done a really, really good job. I'm not saying the council's done a really good job, but the communities and the whole system, if you like, has really come together, and it is a real challenge. And we shouldn't, in this day and age, be talking about putting a poverty strategy together because people really need it. But we do know, we talk about the cost of living crisis and things, that there are families out there that do need support, and we've done our best so far to try and help that. And that web page, like you say, is a good landing place if you're, even if you're in work and you need help. There's a section on there to help you there. So we're doing what we can.
I think that's the thing, that now it's not the poorest people, just the poorest people that are suffering. It's people at all different points of the ladder, that people that are coming off fixed rate mortgages and suddenly their bills are skyrocketing and they're worried about how they can make the mortgage payments. So everybody could potentially
small
need this
changes
help.
Have big impacts on families and what they're able to spend money on.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we've got another 5 minutes or so if you've got any final questions, and then please do get in touch with us. But we're going to play a bit of Oliver Tree and David Guetta now. This is Here We Go Again on Revolution. New music from Oliver Tree and David Guetta. That's Here We Go Again on Revolution Radio. So my thanks to Cllr Matt Golby from West Northamptonshire Council. Thanks a lot for joining me today. I'm sure we will see you again in the future.
Pleasure, Chris. Thank you.
And good luck with the cabinet meeting tonight. And if people do want to get in touch with you, or if they need to use your services at any time, then they can reach you via the council website. Of
course they can. Yeah. My number's on there. My email address is on there. I'll be very happy to try and help somebody.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Steve is here after 12 o'clock for the final hour of the show and taking us up to the news at midday. Here's Glass Animals on Revolution.